This is the community of Los Coleros digging pipes, and this is a year later. Now, one of the things which is really important that Des Pueblos does is to go, we meet the community before we grant any money so that we get a feeling of who they are, they know who we are, and we have an idea of where they're at baseline. And then we go back and see what they've actually done, because all too often development money ends up in some foreign account or in somebody's Mercedes. And so this is a year later, running water right at your door, and this is the rich people there have a sink to run it into instead of a big barrel. Now, what that does is not only do they have piped water, but they then have, they learned, and we discussed with them, catching the water when they're finished using it, say for washing dishes or even washing their face, and using it to grow vegetables and water their fruit trees so that they have better nutrition. One of the things that happened, Los Coleros had asked us to do this project because they had a perfectly running well. And then the government decided they needed to build the economy, and some foreign company that made cardboard boxes came in and said, we'll do that, and took the land right across the road and built a factory. And the well was dry except for trickles between midnight and opening. The factory spewed out dirty air, because better a factory that has some jobs than not, right? And they employed 5 people from this community of about 60 families. So the community didn't have water, and now they have piped water, which is actually safer than well water. But they have to pay for it. They have to maintain the pipes, and the connections, which is actually a much bigger and more expensive project in the scheme of things than getting well water. Now, the picture that's up now came from, I've done a lot of work in Haiti over the years. They build public wells as part of the hospital service. And the one problem with public wells, but actually there are 2 big problems, all of which have to do with the big picture. The wells during the rainy season get flooded. And when they get flooded with typhoid, they get flooded with Giardia, they get flooded with E. coli, a whole bunch of really nasty diseases. And they have puddled water which breeds mosquitoes. The mosquitoes carry malaria and dengue in Haiti. And right now, post-earthquake, they're having a huge problem. And I have 30 seconds, so I'm going to skip 2 pictures. This one, I'll just tell you about this one, which is also from Haiti. When you don't have potable water, you get all sorts of diarrheal diseases in main part. And the problems of, we all need at least 10 liters of water a day, although the minimum set by the World Health Organization is 20 liters. But you cannot survive more than about 4 days in usual circumstances without water. It is essential for life. You know, you get 4 minutes or so without air, 4 days or thereabout without water. You can go without food for 4 weeks. When there's not potable water around, contaminated water, among other things, the kids get diarrhea. They then get malnourished. They get more malnourished because if you don't have enough water, you don't have sufficient crops to get from through one growing season to the other. And the little kid that you see there weighs 2.5 kilos, which is what a newborn should weigh. Only this kid's about 11 months old. Okay, she's sitting with her grandmother, not her mother, and the reason she weighs 2.5 kilos instead of about 10 kilos in some at her age is because her mother died in childbirth. Grandma's done her best, but between insufficient food bouts of diarrhea. This is severe malnourishment, marasmus, and I will end there, even though it will be up on the website. There are a whole lot more with all my notes in them.
Thank you so much, Dr. Calvo. I think those images were particularly powerful, but of course what really brought them to life was your commentary upon them. And we had this image, if you remember, of those, well, including children in Los Calaros, is it, who were laying the pipes. And I think that gave you a sense of how immediate the connection is to the realization of an MDG. It's something you can think about, it can be something you talk about. But when you get into the first-hand experience of actually using your hands in executing a small part towards that goal, you get that sense of immediate connection. And I take that metaphor and the realism, if you will, of the hand to our next speaker, Rachel Paulson, who is the founder of Hands on the World. And it's a very spirited non-governmental organization. And what was really striking to me, particularly in the context of the wonderfully evocative anthem with which we concluded the, what I like to call the ceremonial part of today's meeting this morning, is how Rachel Paulson has this philosophy of teaching the same song to groups of children around the world, because the fact that they're all singing the same tune and the same song brings a connection which any amount of teaching or reading or even inspiration cannot afford. Rachel Paulson.
Thank you. I'm so proud to be here today in the House of Africa, because Africa is where my projects began. My work began as a teacher, and after going on to retire from teaching, I became a published children's author. I published 2 children's books. Through working with those books and working with young children, I learned how powerful a young child's thoughts and mind can be. We do not give children in this world the credit that they need for coming up with ideas to make a difference. With that background of being a children's author, I traveled around the world. I did environmental workshops. I gained lots and lots of experience. I saw how important it is to get communities involved. So if I would go to a school and I would do a book signing and I would do a project, I'd have the parents come in. I'd invite the mayor. I'd invite all of the people that would come. From there, I learned how important it is to network and to make other people feel that they were a part of what I was doing. In the year 2000, I was invited by the United Nations to do one of my workshops at the Millennium Conference, where these goals were discussed. And it was the first time in my life that I had come upon working with internationally. And I did my workshop with children from 120 countries. And most of them couldn't speak English. And so I had them all before me, and my project at the time was recycling. And so I had them, all of these children before me. Some of them could not understand what I was going to say. So I decided right then and there, sporadically, that I was going to use both art and a hands-on project so that we could all feel connected to what we were doing. And I'm going to tell you, it was like a major miracle. The energy that happened in the room at the United Nations touched my heart and my soul, and my life was never the same again. I learned at that United Nations forum, I met with people, with leaders who were from developing countries. I had never been to a developing country. And one of the gentlemen there was from Africa, and he said to me, Rachel Paulson, you are getting all of this attention for the books that you've written. You're in the newspaper, you've been on TV. Have you ever thought about writing a book with the focus on running water? He said, do you know that in Africa, in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, there are 750 school villages without running water? I was shocked by this, and both interested and shocked. I went onto the computer, I started to do my homework, my research. I could not believe what I was reading. I got more and more interested. I